Welcome to the Dr. John Char Holistic Health Show. We're going to be talking about sinuses today and infections without antibiotics. You know what plagues Americans most during especially the flu seasons, or the time when spring comes along and the pollen's in the air? That's allergies and congestions. And that can lead to infections. And people are miserable. People got allergies, you know. And that can go on for not only a certain part of the year, but can be all year round with different allergies. Now, we found basically that if the immune system is not bombarded with all these called allergens, which are stressors, and allergens can come from all types of different places, like the environment. You got chemicals, you got sprays in the air from, if you're maybe your neighbor's spraying the yard, or with these insecticides and pesticides. You can go down to your gas station and somebody fills the tank up, and all of a sudden you say, oh my gosh, my nose is running. Or you might eat a certain type of food, and all of a sudden, yeah, I get a rash, or I got some allergies. All these collectively are from one basic area, the immune system. And if the immune system is strong enough, that will ward off, that can handle all these stresses, then basically you won't get the reactions like maybe sneezing, or running nose, or rash, or hives, and not feeling well on top of that. So, if you suffer from a chronic sinusitis or infections, you're likely to endure multiple courses of antibiotics, okay, salt mist, or even nasal sprays, which you can be addicted for years. And some of the symptoms can be sinus pressure, pounding headaches, painful teeth or toothaches, or a loss of sleep, and more. Some of them will have depression when they have these allergy attacks, and you might turn to surgery. And surgery does not provide you with lasting relief. Right? In addressing real sinusitis and sinus infections caused by the overgrowth, what is sinus? The sinus is a lining, and it's a hollow space, but the lining. And that membrane usually have an overgrowth of microbes. And that microbes can be noxious bacteria, which invade the natural flora, and you can also have overgrowth of fungus or fungi that lives in your sinus and grows, and it gets out of control. That's where your immune system reacts, and to these causing pain and swelling of the sinus itself. Why? Because the sinus usually is warm and moist, and it's a perfect breeding ground for these bacterial microbes. Okay, so what are the first things you do? A lot of times you go to the doctor, they give you antibiotics. But how many times have you gone and they did a sinus examination on you, and they took samples or they took specimens and they try to match them up with a specific antibiotics, because the bacteria might be many different forms. Okay, and if you don't have the right form, that antibiotic is not going to work. But what's the problem with this antibiotics? If you're taking a lot, you can get reactions from it, because the antibiotics can change or mutate and cause something more serious called a side effect. Nevertheless, also, the problem is that when you take a antibiotic and it doesn't go straight to the point of the sinus. It has to go through the whole body. And you can also affect what we call your gut flora or your intestinal flora and neutralize that with from the friendly bacteria, which you need to help you with your digestion and your food. And then that affects the whole body. See? So, if possible, antibiotics, it can be limited, and because if you do have too much, then you have to get rid of the effect of the antibiotics before you can get things under control. And if the antibiotic works, a lot of times it will not work on the hottest specimen, and now you have to go deal with the hottest specimen that is immune to the antibiotics, and not to mention the fungus that has in there. Antibiotics, as you know, will not cure or will not take care of your viruses and your fungi. Okay? So, when it doesn't do that, the body goes into, the immune system starts to try to get the cytokines to create white blood cells to go fight the infection. And when that becomes overloaded, then the microbes are overpowering, reproducing the white blood cells. That's when you get infection, and you get pus, and you get discharge. Okay. So what do? Well, for one thing, you can use the right supplements to help boost the immune system and help with the antifungal and antiviral and antibacterial agents that directly affects the membrane of your sinuses. You can use a drug-free instead of using drugs that can kill the overgrowth and allow the body once again to retain its natural flora at best. Now, what is a good thing to use and you don't have any side effects? And one of the things that a lot of people use, but you have to use the right concentration, is colloidal silver. And you use it 30 parts per million, enhanced with a surfactant. Okay, and what is a surfactant? That is to help to get better contact with the sinus membrane. And that usually can be an additive called polysorbate 20. And it helps with the combination of colloidal silver and that polysorbate 20. Now, you can use colloidal silver, which has no side effects, as a spray, or you can use it with a neti pot. And what is a neti pot? It's a small vessel used to wash your sinuses. You can buy in the drugstore. And then usually they use salt water to go ahead and wash and bathe the sinuses. That will kill the staphylococcus, streptococcus, and even B. aeruginosa. Okay, the most common bacteria for sinus infections, and candida, and the fungus that commonly cause chronic sinusitis and infections, and it's safe. So how do you use it? You can spray your nose every 20 minutes. Again, you need to get what we call the 4-to-1 ratio. 4-to-1 ratio means that you're going to overpower the growth of the bacteria in your nose. Okay, the bacteria, the viruses in your nose, and the fungi, the growth. Because you can keep ahead of that, then eventually you will slowly destroy millions and millions of these microbes, and then pretty soon you can be ahead of the growth and eventually eliminate it. Okay. Okay. So every 20 to 30 minutes if you use a spray. So you get your spray, hold your nose up like that, get a fine spray, you can get a tube and spray it in your nose and inhale it. Like, okay, and you do it every 20 minutes on each nostril. Not one nostril, but each nostril. And hold it like that as long as you can, and at least for 20 minutes. So you're almost laying down on your back. But one thing about it is every 20, 30 minutes you got to do that. You got to keep ahead. And if you have a sort of a early signs or acute sinusitis, means, and it flares up. Usually it can happen, it takes about 2 to 3 days to have it under control or get rid of it. That means every 20 minutes you got to spray. And sometimes when you wake up at night, you got to spray. So you're spraying every 20 minutes, and then you follow up that by keeping ahead of the game, and when if you wake up for some reason or other, and you spray it again, okay, in your nose. It's an accumulative effect. For acute sinusitis, like I said, it takes you 2 to 3 days of spraying. But now, here's another way you can do it. Remember I talked about the neti pot, okay? Now, the neti pot you'll be able to use that with the vessels, and it will go into your sinuses, and it will hold that fluid into your sinuses for 20 minutes. And you can actually spend, instead of every 20 minutes spraying, you can do it 2 to 3 times a day, because it will have enough there to hold the growth of that viruses in the nose, or the bacteria and the fungus in the nose, to lower the growth of these microbes. Okay. Now that's for the acute. Now what about people who have chronic? Chronic means it's almost every day. It's an invasion of your membrane, an inflammation of the membrane, and you get it like every day. It's not once in a while, and it's not acute. It's going to take longer, and it can take up to 2 to 3 weeks, not days, weeks. Okay. So you can treat that the same way with the neti pot 2 to 3 times a day, or you got to spray 20 minutes a day and for 2 to 3 weeks, which is little more diligence on your part. Okay. Now here's a clue. A lot of people say we use salt water, saline water, to flush the nose. Do not do that. If you're going to use colloidal silver, then you cannot mix it with salt water. It will destroy the effect of the silver colloidal. Okay? So, and also, people say, well, I have to blow the sputum out of my nose. When do you do it? Do you spray before you blow your nose, or after you blow your nose, then you put the application in there? You have to go ahead and blow your nose first, clear your nose out, and then apply the spray, or if you use a neti pot, use that. But not blow your nose after you finish it, or you blow all the substance that you put into the nose, and you clear it all out.